In an interview, Levine recounts the inspiration for They Feed They Lion. It was the impulsive utterance of a black co-worker as he and Levine emptied out and refilled burlap sacks at a Detroit grease plant in 1953. Levine's story of the poem's birth is itself a marvel, a potent blend of delayed gratification, dream states, and intoxication. Holding up an empty burlap sack, Levine's co-worker, and I love his name, Lemon Stills Jr., exclaimed, quote, "They feed, they line, they mill, and they sacks." Levine reports that he was, quote, stunned by the sentence itself, as well as Lemon's ability to simplify English grammar by reducing all third-person pronouns to the one they. Now, presuming Stills Jr., quote, a tall, slender black man with a wonderful wit and disposition, end quote, and Levine conversed on a regular basis, they were co-workers, the grammar of black dialect was probably familiar to Levine. In this recounted memory, Levine perhaps goes too far in assuring us of the breakthrough revisionist grammar of Lemon Stills Jr. Levine goes too far in order to preempt any untoward comments about or prejudicial reactions to Stills Jr.'s manner of speaking. And in going too far to avoid even the whiff of self-satisfied smugness, Levine ends up exoticizing Stills Jr.'s rather common black English utterance. What seems to actually excite Levine, what actually appears to stun him, is less Stills Jr.'s black English than the literary daring do of those I ams anchored by 4 days, akin to Poe's the bells, as well as Pope's 10 slow syllables. Years later, Levine tells us, sometime in the 1960s, the phrase returned to him in a dream. He's a night watchman in the same grease shop, accompanied by guards who happen to be an elephant and a lion. A few weeks after this dream, Levine attended a wedding party, danced all night, had a few drinks, had a few tokes, walked home, walked it off, fell asleep, and the next morning woke up with the phrase, "They feed they lion," in his head. Because he knew he'd never forget the phrase, he went back to sleep. It's a Sunday, and only on the following Tuesday did he wake up, write down the entire poem in one sitting, revising only a single line in the last stanza. As with Coleridge's Kubla Khan or Wordsworth's preface to lyrical ballads, altered states of consciousness by dint of drugs, sleep, or objectified cultural difference are the condition for the possibilities of encounters with the other. In an interview with Detroit Magazine, Levine specifies the year that the poem was written, 1968, 1 year after the riot. This urban firestorm would be the other side of the dreamscape, and so the poem rolls out its vision of alienated labor, its images accumulating in stanza after stanza. Nonetheless, the unforgiving power of the poem owes as much to Walt Whitman and Stills Jr. as it does to Levine, and this is the first stanza. Out of burlap sacks, out of bearing butter, out of black bean and wet slate bread, out of the ashes of rain, the candor of tar, out of creosote, gasoline, drive shafts, wooden dollies, they lie and grow. Yet, aside from the substitution of they for their at crucial moments in the poem, the language is all standard, if gritty English. Moreover, those theys add nothing essential to the tone and certainly nothing essential to the meaning of the poem. Keeping theirs would not have greatly diminished the effectiveness of the poem. In other words, the difference between they feed their lion and they feed they lion is the little spice of black dialect added to the mix. Aside from the substitution of they for their, nothing else in the poem sounds black. if black in this case means black dialect. But if we imagine this poem is written by a black poet using standard English, would he or she need to show off their street cred by code switching from their lion to they lion?